Every year, retirees spend tens, sometimes hundreds, of thousands of dollars on a Great Loop boat, and many discover they bought the wrong one only after they have already spent thousands more fixing problems they never knew existed. Not because they were careless, not because they did not research, but because the mistakes most first-time loop buyers make are surprisingly consistent, and almost none of them are obvious until you are already underway and dealing with the consequences 600 miles from home. Today we are going through the 5 biggest Great Loop boat buying mistakes retirees make. These are the errors that cost people real money, real frustration, and in some cases the entire adventure they spent years planning. Stay with me all the way through, because the number one mistake is the one almost nobody talks about openly. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why experienced loopers are so consistent in what they recommend. The Great Loop is a continuous waterway circling the eastern United States. Roughly 6,000 miles of rivers, canals, lakes, bays, and coastal passages connecting the Atlantic coast, the Gulf of Mexico, the Mississippi River system, the Tennessee and Cumberland rivers, the Great Lakes, and the Erie Canal into a single navigable route. Most people take 1 to 2 years to complete it. Some take longer, because they keep finding places worth staying. It has become one of the defining retirement adventures in America. And the boat you choose determines almost everything about the quality of that experience. Most first-time buyers shop for a boat the way they would shop for a house, focusing on size, appearance, and amenities. What they should be doing is shopping for a tool specifically fitted to 6,000 miles of varied American waterway. Those are very different processes. And the gap between them is where every mistake on this list begins. Mistake number 5. Buying a boat that looks impressive rather than one that fits the journey. A retired couple spends 2 years planning the Great Loop. They save carefully, join looper communities, attend rendezvous events, and read everything they can find. When the time comes to buy, they find a beautiful 52-foot motor yacht, stunning interior, massive flybridge, twin high-output diesels. It looks exactly like the retirement they spent decades imagining. 6 months into the loop, they are exhausted. The boat is too large for many of the smaller transient docks that make the journey memorable. Maneuvering in tight river locks requires confidence they have not yet built. Every week feels less like adventure and more like management. The boat is beautiful, and it is making their retirement adventure harder than it ever needed to be. This mistake comes from confusing what a boat looks like with what a boat does. On the Great Loop, the qualities that determine success are rarely the ones that photograph well. Manageable beam, a draft that opens up shallow anchorages, a size that fits the small river towns and quiet harbors that define the experience at its best. The boats loopers describe with the most genuine affection are rarely the most impressive. The Ranger Tug 29 surprises people most. Compact, efficient, handling the entire route with a simplicity that makes the journey feel accessible rather than intimidating. First-time buyers rarely put it on their short list. Experienced loopers recommend it constantly. The Mainship 34 and Nordic Tug 32 earn the same consistent praise for the same reasons. The retirees who complete the loop most happily are almost never on the biggest, most impressive vessels. They are on well-chosen boats that fit the route rather than fight it. And if you have already recognized one of these mistakes in your own boat search, hit the like button, subscribe to Boat Hunter, and turn on notifications, because the mistake coming up at number 1 is the one that causes the most regret after people actually start the loop. Choosing the right boat is essential, but what it costs to operate that boat is where the next mistake catches people completely off guard. Mistake number 4. Underestimating the true cost of ownership. Most first-time loop buyers spend months researching purchase prices. They negotiate hard, close a good deal, and feel genuine satisfaction on the day they take ownership. Then 18 months into the journey, they realize the purchase price was only the beginning. Fuel is where the gap between boats becomes most visible and most felt. A single-engine displacement trawler at 2 to 3 gallons per hour is a manageable ongoing expense across 6,000 miles. A twin-engine vessel burning 8 to 10 gallons per hour at the same speed tells an entirely different story. Over 18 months, that difference can reach $15,000 or more. Not in the purchase column, but in the operating column that most first-year budgets significantly underestimate. Marina fees compound the picture. Most loop marinas charge by the foot. A 48-foot boat pays meaningfully more at every transient dock than a 36-footer. Across hundreds of stops, that accumulates faster than most buyers anticipate when they are still in the planning phase and thinking primarily about purchase price. Maintenance on a boat used continuously across 18 months is not the same as maintenance on a weekend vessel. Running gear needs attention. Engine services come due. Everything that lives in a marine environment and gets used hard requires periodic investment. Budget 1 to 2% of the boat's value annually, and keep that money liquid before you ever leave the dock. And then there are the surprises. The through hull that starts weeping in week 8. The generator that stops starting the morning of a long-planned passage. Buyers who are financially prepared treat these as manageable inconveniences. Buyers who are not experience them as crises that threaten the entire journey. The practical lesson is straightforward. Build an honest 18-month operating budget. Fuel, marina fees, maintenance reserve, unexpected repairs. And then evaluate whether your chosen boat is right for that budget, not just for the purchase transaction. Getting the budget right is essential, but even buyers who plan the costs carefully can make a size mistake that shapes every single day of the experience in ways no spreadsheet captures. Mistake number 3. Buying too much boat. The logic is understandable. You are living aboard for 1 to 2 years. Bigger means more space, a better galley, a proper master stateroom, a second cabin for family visits. Why settle when the budget allows more? Here is what the size calculation leaves out. The Great Loop runs through river systems, canals, and locks that demand precise boat handling in confined spaces with current, commercial traffic, and limited margin for error. The locks on the Erie Canal were built for a specific era of navigation. The Tennessee Tombigbee locks can generate turbulence that challenges boats pushed into corners. A large vessel in a tight lock, with a crew still building its skills, is a genuinely stressful situation that repeats itself dozens of times across the route. One couple bought a 46-footer, believing they wanted the space. What they actually spent the loop doing was managing the physical consequences of that decision, approaching lock entries with anxiety that smaller boat owners nearby did not share, missing transient docks in small towns that could not accommodate their length, anchoring out in the channel while other loopers tied up at the Main Street dock and walked to dinner. They sold the boat within 6 months of finishing and replaced it with a 38-footer they described as the vessel they should have bought from the beginning. This is the part the specifications cannot capture. The loop is at its best in the small places. River towns, canal villages, quiet state park docks that accommodate modest boats and turn away larger ones. A right-sized boat opens those doors. An oversized boat closes them, one by one, across 6,000 miles. The 36 to 40-foot range is where experienced loopers consistently land when advising first-timers. That is where handling confidence, physical access, and liveaboard practicality converge most favorably. The journey rewards the right-sized boat in ways that only become fully clear after several hundred miles. Choosing the right size matters enormously, but even buyers who get the size exactly right sometimes skip the one step that would have told them precisely what condition they were actually buying. Mistake number 2. Skipping proper due diligence before buying. In a market where desirable, loop-capable trawlers sell quickly, there is real pressure to move fast. A good boat at a fair price can attract multiple serious buyers within days of listing. That timeline creates a psychological trap. The fear that pausing to do this properly means losing the boat entirely. That fear is responsible for some of the most expensive mistakes great loop buyers make. Skipping the marine survey is the most dangerous version. A professional survey is not a formality. It is a forensic examination of everything the listing photographs did not show. It finds the soft deck section kept dry for photos. It identifies the failing engine mounts, creating vibration the seller has learned to ignore. It reveals the electrical system that accumulated 30 years of additions without any original wiring being removed. A fire risk, no enthusiasm for the boat's other qualities, justifies overlooking. Buyers who skip surveys to save $1,500 sometimes discover $40,000 of deferred maintenance after the sale. Experienced marine surveyors report this as a recurring finding on boats sold to buyers who trusted seller descriptions over independent professional evaluation. The sea trial matters equally. A boat that presents perfectly at the dock can reveal significant issues under load. Transmissions that slip under acceleration, engines that run fine in the marina and overheat after 45 minutes underway. A sea trial surfaces these things. A dock inspection cannot. One buyer found a Monk 36 online that checked every box. He made an offer without visiting in person because another buyer was reportedly interested. The survey revealed structural water intrusion, addressed cosmetically, but not properly repaired. The deal collapsed. He flew out weeks later to see a different boat in person, commissioned a full survey, completed a sea trial, and bought a well-maintained Mainship 34 that carried him through the entire loop without significant mechanical trouble. Good boats with honest sellers accommodate due diligence without hesitation. Resistance to a survey or sea trial is itself information worth having. The first 4 mistakes can all be recovered from. What we are about to discuss is different. It is the foundational error that determines, before a single mile is covered, whether the journey will be what you planned. Mistake number 1. Buying the wrong type of boat for the Great Loop. This mistake hides most effectively. The boat is the right size, the survey is clean, the sea trial went well, the Liveaboard features checkout, and the boat still underperforms, sometimes dramatically, because its fundamental design was built for something the Great Loop is not. To understand why this matters, you need to understand the difference between a boat designed for speed and a boat designed for distance. Planing hull boats, express cruisers, sport fish convertibles, high-performance motor yachts were engineered to get up on plane and run efficiently at 20 to 30 knots. At those speeds, they are genuinely impressive. The hull lifts, resistance drops, and the boat performs exactly as intended. Run those same boats at 7 to 10 knots, the natural pace of the Great Loop, and everything changes. The hull sits below plane, pushing through the water rather than over it. The motion in a following sea is different. The response to current and wind at slow speed is different. The entire experience of being aboard is disconnected from what the boat was designed to deliver. Displacement and semi-displacement trawlers were built for the opposite priority. Their hulls are optimized for exactly the speed range the loop requires. They move through the water with an efficiency and seakeeping quality that planing hulls at low speed simply cannot replicate. They were designed for distance, for comfort over extended periods, for the conditions a 6,000-mile journey through rivers and coastal waters actually produces. The buyers who discover this mismatch on the water describe a consistent frustration. It is not that the boat fails mechanically. It is that every day feels like operating outside the design envelope. A boat that seems to be working harder than it should for the pace being asked of it. 6,000 miles of that sensation is genuinely exhausting. The right type of boat for the Great Loop is not the fastest, the most sophisticated, or the most recently built. It is the boat whose design was optimized for the journey you are planning. The Mainship 34, the Grand Banks 36, the Nordic Tug 32. Boats designed from the beginning for distance rather than speed. And that is why when you talk to loopers who have successfully completed 6,000 miles, the recommendations start sounding almost identical. They are not repeating marketing brochures. They are repeating lessons learned the hard way. 5 mistakes, every one of them avoidable. The Great Loop is anchoring in a quiet Tennessee River cove on a September evening when the air has finally turned cool and the stars are out and there is nowhere you need to be until morning. It is discovering a waterfront Michigan town you had never heard of and staying 3 days because leaving feels like a loss. It is watching the American landscape shift around you over weeks. River bluffs giving way to Tennessee countryside, the Gulf Coast opening up, the Florida Keys, the Atlantic seaboard turning north as the seasons change. All of it is available to anyone willing to make the journey. The boat just has to fit the trip. Choose the right boat, and you stop thinking about the boat altogether. You start thinking about the places, the people, the anchorages, and the experience itself. And that is exactly what the Great Loop is supposed to be. If you are planning the Great Loop, drop a comment below right now. Tell us what boat you are considering, or share the question still standing between you and a decision. Experienced loopers check in on these conversations regularly, and what comes out of the comments is consistently worth reading. If this video helped, hit the like button, subscribe to Boat Hunter, and turn on the notification bell. Every week we cover real boats, real costs, and the honest side of Great Loop preparation. We will see you in the next one.